what I see for you, what my vision is, my hope and dreams, is that you can resolve all the money issues in your life so you can focus on the things that are more important. The family you're raising, the spouse you're with, the spouse you're looking for, the dogs that you have, the cats, the animals, the things that you want to impact, the joy, the passion, the hobbies, the interests that you have. I want you to be able to do that stuff. What is my home worth? Is my equity okay? Should I be concerned? How can I answer this in masses? Then we'll talk about the finance portion. Holiday spending, we're going to talk about end of year money moves, the things you can do to put yourself in the best position possible. The mindset portion of the show, we're going to talk about identity versus obligation during the holidays. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Mendo Money Mindset Show. You are listening to 97.9 Willits Hometown Radio. I am your humble host, Raymond Habel, lifetime resident of Mendocino County, realtor for the past 6 years, and a lifetime enthusiast of financial freedom, of identity, of how to be a better person, and how to enjoy where I'm at right now. I hope you're doing amazing and well. This is the December show, so happy holidays. We'll be talking about some wonderful things on this show. I'm very excited to get into it. If you've never heard the show before, the Mendo Money Mindset, we have 3 sections to the show. First, we talk about the Mendocino County real estate market. This is where we talk everything data. What's going on with real estate? How can I answer the question I receive almost every day, which is, Raymond, what is my home worth? Is my equity okay? Should I be concerned? How can I answer this in masses? How can I tell this audience, you listening, exactly what is going on with the real estate market and what you can do to best put yourself in the best place possible? So we're going to be talking about that. Then we'll talk about the finance portion. On this show, it's going to be pretty amazing. We're going to talk about holiday spending. We're going to talk about end of year money moves, the things you can do to put yourself in the best position possible before end of year. Finally, we'll talk about the mindset portion of the show. We're going to talk about identity versus obligation during the holidays. Identity versus obligation. What do you feel obligated to do this year? And how can we change that? Going right into things, we're going to be looking at all of the data. The way I like to do this is we do a once a month Mendocino County market update report. This is something we give to our private clients every single month. And we did this starting during COVID. People came up to me and they were scared. Raymond, what's going on? Is our house's equity okay? I just don't know. And in light of that, we started doing these monthly reports to help people know what was going on with real estate. We've been doing it every single month now. And since then, we've been continuing to give this out for free to our private clients. If you want to see all the trends, the pictures, the things I'm looking at, go ahead and email mendomoneymindset@gmail.com and we can shoot this report over for free. We're going to be going into the data. I like to compare apples to apples, which means we compare 2 types of metrics. We compare year over year and we compare month over month. How did we perform November, since that's the data we have, 2025 to November 2024? Did we go up, down, sideways, or somewhere in between? Then we like to go month over month. How are things looking from October to November? How did they do during the slowdown? Did weather have an impact, or are we seeing things change? Did macro trends have an influence on our micro economy? The first thing we'll jump right into is what I like to call the one of my favorite stats. It is how many active homes do we have on the market, how many of them have sold, and how many are pending. For Mendocino County, we currently have, as of November 2025, 370 homes on the market, which is a 10% increase year over year. Sold homes were also up 44 homes for the month of November, which is actually a 33% increase. Finally, pending homes. If you don't know what pending homes means, this means how many homes were currently in escrow as the time of this recording. As you may be familiar with, escrow is when buyer and seller shakes hands and they say, we agree to buy this house at X price under these conditions. And then the next 30 days, we spend that time to look around and make sure everything checks out. That is the escrow period. Work with our banks if we're buyers, we work on our disclosures if we're sellers. And so that way, at the end of the transaction, everybody's happy and hopefully we move forward. Those pendings totaled 56 for the month of November, which was a 27.3% increase year over year. Next, we're going to be looking at average price per square foot. This one's a fun indicator, and we'll talk about this right now. Average price per square foot for Mendocino County is up $350 per square foot, which is a 12.2% increase year over year. 3.2% increase month over month. So to say, homes in 2025 are selling more on average than they did in 2024. Very interesting. Next, we have days on market. Days on market is the indicator to show us how many days did it take us from the sign going in the front yard for sale all the way to the keys getting handed from the seller to the buyer. How many days did that take? And this is a good health indicator to show us a good selling or buying market based on how many days it would average take for Mendocino County. If you see the graph I'm looking at, we've had 3 solid months of decline from a high of September. And we now have the lowest days on market that rivaled August 2025 at 85 days on average for Mendocino County, a 21.3% decrease year over year. We have average sold prices versus average active prices. This is a great culmination to show us what is the confidence of sellers when they put their homes on the market, and then what is the realization of those prices. Currently, we're seeing average active prices actually up 9.8% year over year and up 2.9% marginal for sold prices. Finally, we have the last metric, which I love because this is a great indicator. It's called months of inventory. And here's how I like to explain it. If you had 100 homes on the market and we sealed the lid on that jar and said no more, can't sell any more houses, how many months would it take to sell those 100 homes? That is months of inventory. And this is cool for 2 reasons. One, we see how quickly the days on market are. So that's the first indicator. And the second is how many homes we have on the market. So this gives us a good sense of where we sit in any given time for the real estate market as a whole. We currently have 8.2 months of inventory as November 2025, which is down 19.7% year over year. So what does this mean? Well, if we go back to the beginning, we have 10% more homes than we did last year, 370 homes for sale. However, we have 36% more homes being sold, and we have 2.3% more homes in escrow. This shows me a couple of things, but let's not stop there. Average price per square foot that we were talking about before on the rise, 12.2%. Days on market down, as we spoke about, at 85 days. And finally, we had months of inventory also being down year over year by 19.7%. If you are a seller, it is a wonderful time to sell. Price per square foot up, inventory still up. However, we are seeing that inventory being sold at a higher rate than we did last year. Days on market also being down during that same time. This shows me it is a hotter market for sellers than it was in November 2024. Now, for buyers, it is still an amazing time to buy because we see more inventory still on the market. And typically around this time of year, it does slow down in transaction volume. This could be a great time for you to sit down and look at some homes that have been on the market for a while and say, does this meet my needs? Have we seen the house? Do we like the house? And if so, make an offer that makes sense for you. The worst thing that anyone can say is no. What was your takeaway from that? What did you think about this real estate market? What's your opinions? Do you have any real estate stories of your own? Do you have opinions about the real estate market? Shoot me an email, mendomoneymindset@gmail.com. Tell me your story. And it could be next month's show. Next, we're going to be talking about something that I feel is important. I feel, especially this time of year, this is a great conversation for you and I to have. Now, this is going to be the finance portion of the show. And as a quick reminder, I am not your financial advisor. I am just a person that loves this kind of stuff. Talk to someone a lot smarter than me, but I hope you take away some ideas, some frameworks, and some questions to ask these smart people so that way you are more informed. One time I was sitting down with a financial advisor, CPA, doing my taxes, and I won't name who it was. They're a wonderful person, known them for years. But I did my taxes one year and I realized, boy, I just didn't know that I could do XYZ. And my CPA never brought it up. And I went to them and I said, hey, can I do XYZ? And they said, oh yeah, sure. And in that moment, I thought to myself, okay, you might have the best intentions for me, but it's still important for me to know what questions to ask. And this, I hope, will do the same for you. What questions are we going to ask at the end of this segment that can help us be in a better financial position? Now, why do we talk about finances? We talk about it because money does solve money problems. If you know me personally, you know I am not driven by this kind of thing. I am not chasing the cars and the big houses, but everybody can use more financial independence. What I see for you, what my vision is, my hope and dreams, is that you can resolve all the money issues in your life so you can focus on the things that are more important. The family you're raising, the spouse you're with, the spouse you're looking for, the dogs that you have, the cats, the animals, the things that you want to impact, the joy, the passion, the hobbies, the interests that you have. I want you to be able to do that stuff. I want you to enjoy your life because this is, if you believe like me, our only time around right now, depending on your religious preference, and I want to make the most of it. And that means understanding this topic, even if we might not want to. So let's get into it. So we're going to be talking about the finance portion, and this is going to be, okay, here's the money myth that we're going to talk about. Holiday spending is out of control, and there's nothing I can do about it. Now, Do I have your permission to give you a hard truth? Yes? Okay. I can hear you nodding. Here's the hard truth. You are not overspending on the holidays. You are under planning. Let me say that again. You are not overspending. You are under planning. Now, here's what I mean by that. We're going to look at a couple of examples, some stats that I can show you, and then we're going to talk about a fix or a strategy that we can implement so we can plan effectively for the holidays. But first, I pulled up this wonderful article from Business Wire, which is holiday season takes a mental toll on American workers, and it gives us some stats. The first stat, which I found pretty interesting, was there was a survey of 1,000 people, full-time U.S. employees, aged 30 to 65. And they stated that over 50%, 57% of the report had reported that holidays were more draining, with financial stress cited as the number one stressor in this time. They said 2/3, 66% responded to feeling pressure to overspending during the holidays. And they said that number climbed to 77% for the sandwich generation, which is those who are caring for children as well as aging adults. Work demand ranked second as the significant stressors for the U.S. workforce. Again, 57%, but they felt obligated to check their work emails during the holiday, with the majority, 51%, admitting that they had worked through the season to, guess this, to avoid family conflict and stress. Yes, 51% of U.S. workers of the 1,000 that they surveyed admitted that they were working through the holiday season to avoid conflict or stress. We're going to talk about that. Now, the second article I want to bring out to really bring this point home is from Consolidated Credit. They had done their own survey. And here's the title of the article, which is very important. Americans still carry last year's holiday debt, and it's shaping 2025 decisions. Americans are still holding last year's debt. And now we're spending for 2025. Looking at this one, again citing emotional stressors, this one did an independent study and said 39% of people feel slightly or moderately stressed around the holidays related to debt. 19 of them say that they're extremely stressed. 64% are worried about inflation right now and rising prices. And 31% are concerned with overspending. Very interesting. Have you seen that? Have you noticed the inflation? I was just looking for toys for my going to be 5-year-old son, and I am noticing drastic prices increases. Have you gone to the store? Yes, you have. You've probably seen the costs of milk and other staple items going up. How interesting is that, especially in this time of year? So now we know the issue. We know that there is stress related to finances. That is an emotional and behavioral consequence that we're going to explore more later. We know that people are spending more or feeling pressure to spend more during the holidays. And then finally, we realize that people have debts from 2024 that have carried over from holiday spending that are now shaping how they spend their money in 2025. So now we know the issue. We know where the issue stems from. How can we fix this? What's the framework? You know me, I like giving you tactics. What's the tactics I can share with you that might help when it comes to clarity, understanding, and action to make sure that we can spend within our means, and that maybe this year We can have a different financial position ending December, entering January, that we won't regret. So first, we have this wonderful article from the American Bankers Association called Budgeting for the Holidays. I'm going to read through this quickly. You can read the full article from AmericanBankers.com. And as we'll see here, we're going to go through a list. I'm going to pull out some ideas that I have on this topic. But the first thing is make a list. They say, they're cheery about it. They say, make a list and check it twice. And the list is going to be all of the people whom you plan to shop for. Now, before you hit the stores, before we start going on Amazon on our phone, before we start going to the computer, write down all of the people you are going to be shopping for. Now, this does an amazing host of things with just one exercise. First, this shows us exactly who are we forgetting, who do we not really need to get presents for, and who might we need to put as a priority. Just the fact, just the exercise of us grabbing a piece of paper, a pen, and saying, okay, who am I buying gifts for this year, forces us to think through all the people in our lives that are important enough to us to get gifts. And then almost simultaneously, you get to do the thought of, what is this person going to want? Is it your 21-year-old child and they want to go to a concert and the tickets are $275 a person and they want to take 2 other people? Okay, that's good to know. Do you have a wonderful book friend that you guys go and do your, what do you call it when you sit down in a group and talk about a book? A book club. Yeah, you have a wonderful book club friend and you love that person. Is there a good book that you can give them? Do you have some coworkers at the office that you can give some fun gifts to? Some light and meaningful gifts? Is there something we can do as an alternative to cut down on some of these costs? Knock on wood, I'm lucky enough to have a son that is still young enough to where he likes the box more than the toys. So I'll buy a big box for him and that'll be it. No. I want to prioritize experiences this year with him. So we're actually going to Portland to meet my grandmother, call her Grandma Tutu. And we're going to go up there. He's never been there before. I've never driven in Portland traffic. So go ahead and let me know. Shoot me an email at mendomoniemindset@gmail.com. Let me know how the traffic is in Portland. I heard it's pretty squirrely. So first we'll make a list and check it twice. Secondly, we will go ahead and shop for bargains. Now that we know who we're shopping for, and we have some rough idea on what they like, what their inclinations are, what the budget is per person, now we can start looking at, okay, let's shop around. Is there some bargains? Is there some, discounts there? What can we do to get this thing, this widget, this experience for the best price possible? Now, doing those 2 things is going to lead to the third thing, which is curb impulse shopping and spending. There is a natural drive for us to go out and see the pretty lights, see the colors that these large companies spend lots of money to figure out will draw us to making purchase decisions. And now we can be a little bit more, we have the clarification to say, okay, I am going to spend, these are my priorities. I don't have to overshop. Now you could do something like online shopping. It's a little less dopamine receptors, less flashy lights. However, I would also be careful. If you're anything like me, I have found myself more than once going and putting a couple extra things in my cart that I maybe didn't need. And it's just so easy on an Amazon cart or any other shopping that you do. Of course, we always recommend shopping locally and supporting the people that we know, like, and love. So whatever you do, shopping in town, shopping at a large box store, or shopping online, you can help curb those impulses by knowing who you're shopping for and seeing what those gifts might be. Another topic would be to make a plan for those expenses. This is more macro in your budget. So we know in the month of December, luckily it comes around every year. We haven't skipped a December ever since the calendar was made that we follow. So we know it's coming up. And so we can make a plan for December to show us what extra we can spend on this year. Now, this one says to do that and to sort of make a plan, what we can do is review the receipts for what we spent last year. Now, if you're like me, you don't have those receipts anymore. I do budget so I can see what I've given in my gift category. But even then, it might be a little tough for us to remember. So something helpful you can do if you do online shopping is to go through and look at the past purchases you've made. You can look at the past sort of results that you've done. What I love to do, and we'll actually talk about it later, is give a gift of giving, so to say. And I'll just basically find what is the total amount I can spend this year. Is it $1,000? Is it $500? Is it $2,000? And then from there, I can reverse engineer how much each person is getting this year. If it's a great year, and knock on the wood, the business was a blessing, great. I have more abundance to give to the people I love. If it wasn't that good this year, then why would I sacrifice my own sanity, my own finances, for the appeasement of others? So that's a good way to think about this. What's the extra amount you can spend this year? Try to divide that by the people you are getting gifts for. Of course, mash that around depending on who likes what and what the priority is. And then from there, you can make a plan. You can have a line item that says, this is what we're spending this year, and we'll stay towards that. Just having a North Star. Even if you overspend, just having the clarification to show you what you can spend this year, I guarantee will drive you closer to your financial goals than it would be just to wing it. Just to get a bunch of stuff on credit cards. Just to buy the things because we know we'll eventually get the raise to pay them off. This is a much more proactive approach. Now, that was a wonderful article. I do suggest you read it. The 5-minute fix that I can think of, talking about these things and sort of summarizing what we've just explored, is number one, know how much you can spend. And that would mean understanding what your regular expenses are. If you don't track, if you don't budget, if you don't look at your finances, here's the perfect opportunity to just look at 1 month. Don't get overwhelmed. We don't have to look at the whole year. Just look at 1 month. See, what did we spend in November? What was the food, the gas, the car insurance, the housing, utilities? What did that all come out to be? And I have a feeling that you have a good intuitive sense on what that already is. Now that we know that, now that we've understood that number, this is just the maintaining of living number. Now we can see, okay, what is the extra things on top that I can do? That I have, maybe there's some additional income in an account somewhere that I am okay tapping into to go ahead and spend on these. Now, a good question is, should I get into debt over these items? That's your decision. Depending on your situation and depending on your plan to spend or to save or what your income looks like, that is up to you. But what I would say is, have a plan. Don't just put things on the credit card because we can and say, my future self will figure it out. Another thing would be, can I tap into my savings for holiday expenses? Again, that is up to your situation. Do you have 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund? If so, great. Do you have extra income on top of that? Wonderful. Are you saving for anything else big? Houses, vacations, college funds, new children, anything big? Yes. Do you have a plan for that? Yes. Have you already saved for what you've allotted for the month of December on top of that? Yes. Okay. Then you can spend that. See how I'm kind of going through this decision matrix, this checklist item? And I'm doing that because I want to be kind to my future self. I want to put my future self in a better position than we are today. I don't want to dig a hole and sit in it. I don't want to be in a worse off position tomorrow. So that's the number one thing I can offer. I can suggest as an idea, as an exercise that you can do in probably an hour. You can understand your expenses. You can understand what additional income you have available based on the amount of goals you have and where you're at attaining those goals. And then we can look at writing down a list of people, the people we know, like, and love that we want to give to. And we can look at what amounts per person do we think that we can allot. That should give us what I like to call the last minute money list. The things and the people that we want to give to, we now have a plan. Now, there is a last minute list I want to make you below this. I want you to make below this that says, what is the little expenses I'm forgetting about? What's the wrapping paper, the stocking stuffers, the donation, the teacher gifts, the gas to driving to all these places back and forth? Let's put a little bit extra on top of that budget for that allotment. You know, bows can be $5 for a little baggie of them. Wrapping paper, the boxes. Why am I always missing boxes when I need them? It seems like throughout the year, I'll have a million boxes through miscellaneous things, and then we'll cut them up, put them in recycling. Great, move on with their lives. And then December rolls around. I'm thinking, where did all those boxes? I have no more boxes. So, anyways, I digress. And the last thing that I can recommend is using an envelope with cash. That will force us to be very cognizant of when we are going close to the budget or if we're going to overspend, or putting a card category. Sometimes with certain credit cards, you can put a card category. You can categorize that. You can do that sometimes with the app, depending on which credit card provider, or you can do it like I do old school. I put it into a spreadsheet. I label it as gift category, and that way I know, okay, here's where I land roughly. Again, all of this planning doesn't work if we don't monitor or check into the amount that we're going to spend. What do you think on that? Now, here's a couple of theoretical stories that we can do, and this is a very different subject, but I want to talk to you about it. Now, December, again, talk to your tax person, talk to your CPA, talk to someone a lot smarter than me, but December is the last month of the calendar year for 2025. For every year, for that matter. Is there anything that we can do before the end of the year that will have permanent positive consequences? Again, we're going to help our future self out here. So here's a couple of ideas. What if you prepaid a few deductible medical expenses in the month of December, reducing your tax burden? Again, verify with someone smarter than me on that. But what if we looked in and said, hey, honey, we can contribute to an account, a medical situation, and we can receive tax benefits to offset some of our income this year? What if you're a local business owner? Can you make some capital investments that are tax deductible that you can write against your income for 2025? What about your retirement accounts? Can you contribute to your IRA, your Roth IRA, your 401k before December 31st, giving you a head start when it comes to the new year? And something like just having a money talk. Can you have a conversation with your spouse, your family, your loved ones, your parents, yourself, to just be in alignment on expectations this year? What's your thoughts on those? We've talked about holiday budgeting. We've talked about putting yourself in the best position forward. We talked about some other ideas from a tax point of view, from a retirement income point of view, to help you button up 2025 and hopefully have the best year ever when it comes to your financial awareness and following the plan. What was your one takeaway? Do you have any ideas? Please share them with me. mendomoneymindset@gmail.com. Tell me your money win story, and we can put it on the show. Next, I'd like to talk about the mindset portion of our show, identity versus obligation during the holidays. We're going to talk about the pressure to provide, holiday guilt, and what does family first really mean? Now, here's something that I want to talk about, and this is especially true for me because I love having a provider mindset. I love taking care of my son. I love taking care of everyone on our payroll for the business. I love being able to help. But that is especially stressful this kind of year. If you're a parent, if you're a provider, if you're an entrepreneur, December amplifies the weight of each of these roles. Most people think they need to show up as everything, especially during the holidays in full force. Now, what's the hidden assumption here? Well, it's that the season demands the most perfect, polished, amazing version of us. And it adds a whole nother role, holidays, that we now need to do 100% on. I want to challenge that. The holidays magnify expectations, not reality. The holidays magnify expectations, not reality. You don't have to fulfill every single role with a 100% intensity simultaneously. Can you be a present friend? Can you be a great coworker? Can you be a wonderful hobbyist at the things you enjoy? And understand and possibly set the expectation with yourself that you will not show up in 100% in certain areas. So number one is the pressure to perform. And we want to give ourselves the thought exercise of thinking, how many roles do I have in this? Am I a father? Am I a mother? Am I a child? Am I working? And do I own a business? Am I a good friend? Am I, on the HOA board? Am I a supervisor at my job? And so I have an additional role there. What are the roles I have? And just understanding, all of them are important to us in different areas. And we're going to try to be the best version of ourselves we can. But some days we might just show up 60% as a manager. Some days we might just show up as 40% as a coworker. We're barely getting in there to punch the tag. Sometimes it's only 60% as a father, as a mother, as a parent. And we need to be okay with the fluidity of that situation. And we need to be okay with understanding we just won't be 100% in all areas. If you're anything like me, you have responsibilities. You're becoming someone that has these responsibilities. And it weighs, and it's amplified, and the stress is even more this time of year. I want to take that pressure off of you. And I want to do that by wanting you to explore that you actually verbalize, write down, or think about these roles you have that you may have never thought before. How many roles do you have? How intently are you in these roles? And then I want you to just give yourself permission. Just literally have a thought, a line, a conversation in your head on paper with the loved one that says it's okay not to be 100% in all areas at all times. If I can be 100% of a great parent when my son needs me after school when I pick him up, but I'm a lousy coworker because I'm not getting much work done, I'm okay with that. That's my first sort of thing when it talks about identity versus obligation and the pressure of providing. Secondly, I want to talk about holiday guilt. The holiday guilt. If you're a parent, if you're a business owner, if you take care of anyone, you feel the guilt of not having enough time, not having enough money, being distracted, or not being able to do enough, using air quotes, for everybody in your life. Now, where does this guilt come from? The guilt comes from comparing ourselves to the ideal version of what we think we should be. Again, it's that 100% version of ourselves. I want you to adopt a healthy frame, a healthier framing. I want you to adopt, or maybe think about this framework. I want to give you a gift. And that is that your presence matters a lot more than your performance. Your presence matters more than your performance. I'm going to say that again in case you didn't hear me. Your presence matters more than your performance. Your kids remember the safety, the connection, the rituals. Your coworkers remember the personality, the kind gestures. Your employees care about the presence and consideration you have towards them and others. Your presence is what matters, not your performance. Now, I want to talk about self-definition. And self-definition is identity, who am I? But I want to talk about it in a way that's actually going to be helpful for you. Again, we can get very heady on this conversation. We can get a lot of theory, but I don't want to give you just theory. I want to give you an idea, and then I want to give you an action item. I want to give you things to think about. And we're going to recap it here. This is your identity check-in. So first, I want you to clarify your role. I want you to actually think out, like we talked about before, who are you really? And what are the roles you're playing? What are the hats that you put on? Are you a parent, coworker, business owner, a friend? Are you a volunteer? And then I want you to think about these things. I would prefer you write them down because just the act of writing helps kind of get this out from head to paper. And then I want you to give 1 to 2 realistic expectations that you can give each role this month. I want to say that again. I want you to do a little checklist of your roles. For me, I'm a parent, a business owner, a good friend. And then I want you to list 1 to 2 realistic expectations that you can actually provide, things that you can give, the investment, the energy that you can put into each of these. So for a parent, I can be present with my son after I pick him up from school and during the mornings. Also, we can probably have slow work weekends running up to Christmas. We can go, still have fun, we can be present, but I don't need to go take him to Disneyland. Maybe we can go to IKEA. Why did I say it? I went to Hobby Lobby recently. Got a tangent in Ukiah. Very interesting place. On Saturdays, they tell me is the busiest day of the week. And oh boy, we went on a Saturday. But maybe I can take my son to that. Again, he loves me for my presence, not my performance. I'm a business owner. How if I just maintained our business in the current trajectory? Let me just make sure I'm just checking in, especially with my other employees that I have or team members. Can I just check in with them, ask them how they're doing as human beings? Because they also probably have some of this stress. And how can I make sure that the business runs smoothly? Maybe we don't do any big projects this month. Maybe we don't do any big initiatives. Maybe we just keep the current status quo of what's going on. So that way, the people I work with, the people I love and trust, can also have a little bit more space to adopt all of the other craziness we call the holidays, and they can feel a little less burdened by that. As a good friend, how can I check in with my friends? Sometimes it's simple as a text message. Again, it's presence over performance. Now, the second thing, so we've clarified roles, we've given a couple of initiatives on how to best meet these roles, which is hopefully for you as it was for me when I first did this. It was such a release because I knew what I could do, what I wouldn't do, and I didn't feel bad anymore for not being the best version of myself, for not giving each person in my life a Ferrari. I didn't feel bad anymore because I clearly understood all the roles I play, all the people in my life, the things that I could do with the extra income I had, the extra time I had available. And then I just put 1 to 2 expectations around each role and said, hey, this is what I can do this month. I love that. Secondly, we want to release unrealistic obligations. And we have a fun article here, and this is called How I Set Boundaries During the Holidays to Avoid Burnout. I know we've already talked about a lot of tactics. I want to give you more. My nature is to give, to leave this world a little bit better than when we found it. And so I'm going to give you a couple of more things just to think of. This beautiful woman named Monica Drake, she wrote this article a couple of weeks ago in American A Healthier Michigan, actually brought to you by Blue Cross, which is fun. And she says, here's a couple of tactics. She says, if I'm invited to multiple holiday get-togethers in one weekend, I try to identify the one that A, is most important. Yes, we all get that. But 2, brings me the most joy. It's hard. You have a higher threshold for burnout when you genuinely enjoy something. And she says, a beautiful 1-year-old boy. And if you see the photo, if you pull it up, the boy is in a little bow tie and he has little suspenders on. The cutest thing in the world. So secondly, she says, I acknowledge the financial strain I have. She says, it's completely valid to decline plans that cost the money that I don't have during the holidays. Holidays are expensive enough. She says, I remind myself that I don't have to give a reason why. That's very important. For me, I am a recovering nice guy. And it was very hard for me to no longer feel the need to justify, to give a paragraph, to make something that came up in the way, because I wanted to really just say no. For her, she says, I'm sorry, November and December are really busy. I won't be able to make that. The Jim Rohn, the famous motivational speaker, he said, no, but if my plans change, I'll let you know. Someone says, hey, you should go get a drink with us. Or, hey, you should come away on the weekend. Say, sorry, I can't do that, but if my plans change, I'll let you know. She says, I also think about how much energy the event's going to take from me. In her words, she said, in my 20s, I could go out and party every weekend. No problem. She says, now I can't. I have to prioritize my rest and not feel guilty about it. And another language that she likes to use when sort of setting these boundaries, healthy, in a manner that she can still preserve her friendship, she says, hey, if I decline, I will offer a rant check. So if someone asks something of me, she says, how about January and February when things calm down? This lets the person know I am saying no to the time, but not to the person. I am saying yes to the person, but no to the time. Very interesting. And then lastly, she says, every once in a while, I'll take a random day off work. I won't tell anybody else about it. I won't make any plans. And I'll still have my kid go to daycare. And then I'll just dedicate the whole day to myself. Again, her words. This one would be a wonderful idea if you can make the time. I would let people know that you need to. I think she's saying that under the air of she doesn't want to tell certain people in her life because then they will form plans with her. And it sounds to me like she just wants a her day. And if that's the case, that's 100% valid. That's amazing. So to finally recap this portion of the show, we talked about the statistics of what we're seeing for United States workers, the feelings of stress they have, and that the number one correlation is finances. We talked about financial tactics, tips, tricks, strategies to make sure that we have a plan and that we understand what the limits are and that we can follow. And then we talked about how we can actually move through this holiday season with our identity to know that we don't need to perform, we just need presence. And finally, we talked about setting boundaries. We talked about how we can preserve our self-sanity, our energy, and how we can try to avoid to give too much of ourselves. What was your favorite part about that portion? go ahead and email me, mendomoneymindset@gmail.com. Did you like the healthy boundaries? Did you like the identity shift? Did you like the fact that people in your life might like you for your presence and not your performance? Did you like some of the strategy we talked about on the finances? Being able to budget and understand what money we can give and reverse engineering it from there. Did you like some of the tactics we talked about end of year money moves? Whether it's getting tax deductions, contributing to our retirement accounts, or making investments into ourselves. Let me know what you thought. You thought, and you think. And I hope you enjoyed the show. As always, my name is Raymond Habel, your humble host. This is the Mendo Money Mindset, and you're listening to 97.9 Willits Hometown Radio. I hope you have a safe and wonderful holiday, and until next time.